how do we rule in this category? How do we really dive in and know that they're in this repeated motion, direction-specific category? And that's where we perform our classic repeated motion testing. And this is where you can truly do repeated flexion, repeated extension, and you're looking to see what increases or what decreases the symptoms. Decreasing of symptoms that were down in the leg that are now starting to travel back up to closer to the spine, that's called centralization. And centralization is a very highly specific for having a positive discogenic issue. So if you're able to influence those distal symptoms with repeated motions, that's usually very much consistent with that you're in the right place, that you're diagnosing them appropriately. So how do we do a repeated motion exam? Well, just like all of the testing that we advocate for, we want it to be very reliable. We also want it to be very systematic, and no different here when we're doing repeated motions. The first thing I always advocate for, though, is set a baseline. Okay, you have to set a baseline, and this is where I see, sometimes it's not done well across the board. A lot of times when we do repeated motion testing is sometimes we forget to ask about pain, we forget to ask about where at, how far down, and then we do all these motions and we don't know what's making it worse or making it better because we didn't set the baseline, right? So be very specific before you start your repeated motion exam to ask the patient, okay, what intensity is your pain right now? 0 to 10, what intensity is it, and where is it? Is it just in your low back? Is it down in your calf? Is it in your toes? Is it in your hamstring? Where is the pain? Because these symptoms can travel, right? Sometimes they're there, sometimes they're not, right? And so we need to be able to know exactly what we're dealing with. Then we go through the procedure, which we usually do about 10 reps of standing flexion, followed up by about 10 reps of extension, some side bending, again, 10 reps each way. And then you can actually go to unloaded positions, knees to chest, and prone press-ups. This actually follows the systemization of the McKinsey model, right? So if anyone has gone through repeated motion testing using McKinsey approach, this is exactly their systematic approach of how they look at these repeated motions. So the directional preference or centralization with repeated motion, if you start to get changes with that, you start to make symptoms worse, you start to make symptoms better, that's usually an indication that mechanical loading strategies is what they need. And like I said, this is based largely off of the mechanical diagnosis and treatment model by McKinsey, and they have different phases that you work through. First priority when you're working with folks in this category is you got to reduce the derangement or take the pressure off the nerve. That's the first step. They've got compression on a neural structure. They have symptoms down the leg. We need to reduce that derangement. So take the stress off of that nerve. Then we need to maintain it, right? So once we've reduced it, we have to educate the patient or provide exercises so that they maintain that reduction of the derangement so it doesn't just keep coming back. And then at some point, we got to reverse the direction. So if we started out, if our patient had a directional preference for, let's say, extension, and we worked extension, and finally now all the pain is centralized. They're doing really well with extension. They've kind of maintained that stable, no radiculopathy pain for a week or so. Well, at some point we need to actually start going back into the provocative position, which in this case would be flexion, and actually start working into that flexion, because we don't expect that someone is never going to be able to go into that direction ever again, right? So at some point you'll reverse that direction and as you start to recover function, and then preventing recurrence, obviously setting the patient up for success so that they don't just come back with another issue a month down the road. So when I think about that model, though, when I think about classic MDT model and I think about the SFMA model, I guess I look at that and I see more similarity than I see differences. And that's why I say with evidence-based practice, there's so much that functional movement systems and whatever methodology out there that you're utilizing can have a lot of complementary effects where they can really work together to help make patients, get the patients to achieve their goals. And no different here. When I hear reduced derangement, I'm thinking about, oh, how can we reset the person? When I think about maintaining the reduction, I'm thinking about how can we reinforce this to maintain and protect the gains. When I think about recovery of function, I'm thinking about let's retrain them. And of course, we both love talking about preventing recurrence. Now, sometimes though, I will say, most of the times when you are categorizing folks into a direction-specific category, you may have to put the SFMA on the back burner for a couple of visits, and that's totally okay. You know, the evidence-based approach in this may be that they need a true mechanical diagnosis and therapy model where you're going to work through reducing that derangement with the more McKinsey approach, and you may need to take that approach for several sessions. At some point, though, you're going to start peppering in the SFMA. So whereas in our last category, the mobility dysfunction category, we were able to very quickly shift from, all right, we did the mobility work, now we're going to go right into the SFMA, a lot of times within the same session. This one, actually, the direction-specific exercise, actually more times than not, you're probably actually not going to run the SFMA breakouts and program off the SFMA in the first couple of sessions. You're probably actually going to run just your classic repeated movement model, get the patient stabilized a little bit, but don't make the mistake by not revisiting the SFMA. That's the shortcoming that we fall into sometimes. But these two approaches, again, they work really well together.